Hey guys, it's Tyler Ray here, Project Pure Athlete, and I just want to show you how to not be an ugly squatter. And I know that is kind of like a broad brush stroke right there, but we've seen it, right? It's the back squat loaded, that spinal loaded squat that I really steer clear of. I don't do a whole lot of back squatting with Project Pure Athlete. Focus much more on front loaded, barbell squats, goblet squats, things like this, air squats, things that really promote that proper neutral spine, that bracing that's proper to ensure the health of our body and also just to maximize the output through all the really good mechanisms in our body. So, this drives me nuts is seeing the feet turned out and the squat where we have this really gnarly forward flexion of the hips here and the bar load in the back, and then we have this overextension to compensate, and our squat ends up looking more like an RDL pattern where our low back is really taking way too much load throughout the entire movement. So what we can do to really enforce that proper position of squat, that proper squat position where our feet are straight, we're coming down, our knees are being put out, and our body is braced and neutral, is ensuring that our glutes are firing to stabilize that pelvis before we really progress any further into that pattern. A couple of things I like to do with my athletes or with my clients is grab a little band. And what we do is we just throw this band around the outside of the knees, just above the actual knee joint. And what this will do is ensure that it really emphasizes that bracing sequence before we start the actual squat. So we push the legs out, we squeeze the glutes tight to make sure that we brace the actual pelvis in place, stabilize that trunk, shoulders back, and from here what we can do is you can really emphasize having to keep this band out while we're down into the actual squat. Now, if the athlete or if the client is impinged in terms of how far they're because there's a few elements of the squat that limit you, elements of your body that limit you from getting into a proper squat position. So really we have the ability of our ankle to dorsiflex properly, so our ankle to flex up. If we have that impingement around the Achilles tendon and that actual ankle, then it'll get blocked, and you'll see that. People will come down, and what will happen is they'll block, and then they'll roll back. They'll fall back because they're not able to get into that proper flexion pattern of the ankle. If glutes and hips are really tight, they'll get into that pattern, and then those feet will start to splay out, will start to rotate out as that compensatory movement of the squat, and they'll blow out of that position really quick. So the band really allows us to emphasize the glute tightness. It's also a really nice landmarking tool for the feet, make sure they're nice and straight. Again, if the issue is the ankle and the mobility of the actual ankle itself, then what we can do is we can vault the athlete up on a little bit of a platform. So this is just a little piece of extra rubber, and we get the actual heels elevated just slightly. And what this does is it basically unbiases that movement. It actually takes the tension away from that the actual heel cord right around where the Achilles is, and it allows that movement to be performed so we can stay nice and upright and keep that body in alignment. So we went from being completely forward, blocked, and turned out to turned in, turned on with the glutes, and also taking away the need of our body to really overextend at those ankles by just elevating the heels a little bit. So I would front load this as like a goblet squat. So if you wanted, you could grab a kettlebell dumbbell. I like dumbbells a little bit better than the kettlebell, but that's what was right beside me. So we front load this, make sure we have our heels up, squeeze the glutes, contract nice and tall, and we come down into this, keep the knees out, and then we push back up. And that's going to ensure that we keep that spine braced properly and aligned properly through the entire movement. So grab yourself a little band. You can use plates, little bumper plates, or a strip of rubber will work really nice just to get those heels elevated. Work on that patterning. Once you progress past, once you've worked out the mobility of the ankles, kick that piece of rubber out. You can do it without it. And then eventually, you don't need the rubber band anymore. And that move was uncalled for. But you won't need the rubber band anymore, and hopefully your squat pattern will be cleaned up, and we can get rid of those ugly squats. Let's get them out of the gym. I hate them. All right, Tyler Ray, Project Pure Athlete. Have a good day.